So I'm going to shock the world and you by saying that I'm going to fess up to something that I think I was a little bit wrong about. So look, these tariffs are totally unsustainable. So they won't last. There's no chance. 50% tariff is like totally random, kills all trade, is insane, right?
Okay, already by his statement of saying that 50% would kill all trade, I'm going to assume that he is calculating these import taxes incorrectly.
But if you thought 145% was bad, on August 12th, he's promising a 245% tariff on China. What's the point, right?
Like once it passes 200, Cenk, I'm not gonna buy as much Chinese stuff. At 199, I'll do it, but.
Okay, I mean, to give you guys a sense, right? So let's say you had a 15% tariff on something that costs $1,000.
Okay, here we go. This is gonna determine if Cenk actually knows what he's talking about. And if he gets this wrong, I will break down why he is wrong. Because if he says what I believe he's about to say, this is what 90% of the people who are against these tariffs get wrong.
You had a 15% tariff on something that costs $1,000. It would go up to 1,000, like if all of it is passed on to you, and the great majority is, right? So it would go up to $1,150. Well,
nope, he's wrong. He's already wrong. Okay, so let me break this down for you. The tax on imports happens at the declared value when the product is imported. If I am importing a pair of jeans for $10. Actually, this is great. I will do this exact example here. Okay, I'm really excited about this one. So stick around, please, because this is something a lot of people get wrong. And this is really important to get correct. We're gonna use the apparel industry. They currently range, depending on country, at about 15%. It's 14.5, but I'm gonna round it up to 15% because the math will make it easier. So key point here is to remember that already apparel is at 15%. There already is an import tax on many of these tariffs. Already in the back of people's mind, when they hear Trump's going to put a 20% tariff on something, they're assuming, and again, it's mostly subconscious, they're hearing 20% and they're thinking the price is going to go up 20%, when already there is a 15% tariff. So for our example, let's assume that we have a pair of jeans from China. It doesn't matter what country, but the tariff currently is at 15%. In our example, the end consumer, meaning you and I, we pay $99 for this pair of jeans. So today there's a 15% import tax on apparel. The importer pays a 15% tax. The tariff tax is levied at what the declared value of the items are when they are imported, not the final retail value, which includes costs like marketing and shipping and the retail space for the Gap who has to pay rent and all that, and the employees that work at that store. So given that the importer is paying $20 for that $99 pair of jeans that you buy later on, their tax is $3. Right here. The majority of you at this point know where we're going with this. So the import tax increases to 25%. 25% of $20 is now $5. The importer pays $25 now per item. So the difference now is a $2 amount. There's a $2 increase per item. There's not a 25% increase on that $99. Again, the company was already paying $3 to import those pair of jeans. They are now paying $2 to import that pair of jeans. So when Cenk says a 50% tax on imports would completely destroy trade, it's simply not true. Now here's another point. The cost is not always passed down to the consumer because we live in a competitive market. We are competing against other businesses. If, let's say, gas were to double tomorrow, I couldn't necessarily pass all of those costs onto my current customers for my service business. I could increase my prices a little bit, but I couldn't just infinitely increase my prices. Why? Because people will stop using my service. So what happens a lot of the time is that the importer or the wholesaler absorbs the costs, the retailers can absorb some of that cost, and then the consumer finally will absorb some of that cost. There was a $2 increase. So on a $99 pair of jeans, the consumer would pay 66 cents more because of the increase in those tariffs. But assuming the consumer absorbed all of that extra cost, they're still only going to be paying $2 more extra dollars. So you're going from a $99 pair of jeans to a $101 pair of jeans.
$150. Well, now you're really uncomfortable about buying that thing. You had about $1,000 in your budget. Now they're adding $150. That hurts, and you're paying it, right? No. Okay. Now, if you had a 245% tariff on that same $1,000 product, it'll be $2,450. And absolutely no one will buy it. Like, of course not. It's insane. Nobody's gonna buy it, right?
This is shocking to me that Cenk is this illiterate when it comes to tariffs. You would think somebody who's been doing political commentary as long as he has. When he was doing political commentary, I was doing architecture. I was doing programming. I was doing 3 businesses and raising 24 foster kids. So yes, I was busy. I wasn't doing political commentary during this time, but it's just shocking to me that somebody who's been doing political commentary as long as he has is this confused about the math. You know, Michael Crichton created this term called the Gelman amnesia effect. It's where you will be reading an article on a topic that you know a lot about, and the author of that article says something that is completely wrong. And you realize that that author doesn't actually know what they're talking about. They're not an expert on that topic. And then you turn the page and you read an article by that same author where he's talking about something you don't know something about, and suddenly you're not questioning his expertise anymore. When really, he may be just as confused about that topic as he was about the one you were an expert on.
Whether it's like, in fact, I might have done the math wrong on that. Might be even more. Anyway, whether it's 2,450 or 3,450 is totally irrelevant, because once you get past a certain barrier, right? I mean, what, max 20%, et cetera? People stop buying it altogether, right? So we have not fully hit the impact of these tariffs at all, because the major tariffs just started today, right? But on top of that, all the companies had been hoarding products, imports, because they knew the tariffs were coming. So they also have some stock ready to go, and they're hoping that they won't run out before Trump changes his mind again, or before it's Taco Tuesday again. And he's like, well, yeah, you know, 45%. I mean, I meant 2.45%, right? So it's not totally unsustainable. Been right about that from day one. Absurd, right? One more thing about how much you guys have to pay. On average, this is insane. It goes to John's point. The average, according to Yale Budget Lab, average American is going to have to pay $2,400 more because of these tariffs per year. $2,400. That is an enormous tax on the average American, and a regressive tax. Like the billionaire doesn't care about the $2,400 at all when he's buying bubble gum and t-shirts and sneakers, right? But $2,400 to the average guy is backbreaking. Remember, 40% of the country can't afford an extra $400 hit. What are they gonna do with an extra $2,400 hit? Okay, so John, did you pay attention to any of that, or were you just looking forward to the part where I admit I got something wrong?
No, I thought you were gonna surprise me. I didn't know you were gonna surprise me with something wrong. You already had my interest, but I forget the rest of that quote. It's been a while since I watched it. What were you wrong about?
Yeah, so I thought the tariffs were largely, not exclusively, because Trump's believed in them for a long, long time, and we showed on tape. He's been talking about them for decades, because he's an idiot and thinks that since there was no income tax in the 1890s because of the tariffs.
Watching Cenk call Trump an idiot when he completely made himself look like a fool with his math and his lack of understanding of how tariffs and taxes work it's just a chef's kiss